Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevate 21, the future of cloud, powered by Spalding Ridge. Thank you for taking the time to join us as we dive into today's topic. I'm excited to be able to introduce Matt Gorniak of 3Kit. It's going to be great to get his background, his experience, better understand how he is helping our clients as well as clients in general digitally transform through obviously business optimization, automation, and really better leveraging technology available to them. So Matt, great to have you. Thanks again for joining us today.
Hey Kyle, thanks for being here.
Maybe you can start by just sharing a little bit about your background. I think it's fascinating, kind of your career progression and the different companies and really innovations that you've been able to touch as you've arrived to 3Kit now currently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I find myself in digital transformation pretty soon after college without knowing that that's what I'm doing. But essentially got really my start really early with my business partner and business partners, which we call the entrepreneurial family. But folks like Godard Abel, who is a chairman at 3Kit, and I'll tell you some of the companies we kind of scaled together. Chris Schutz, Joachim Klein. Anyway, these are names that I ran into early. I'd say a couple jobs after college when I kind of found out what I want to do. But in essence, back then, transformation meant this is Big Machines now specifically. So a company called Big Machines, which was very early in CPQ before it was called CPQ, and very early in on demand back before the cloud. But anyway, it's very classic manual processes, in this specific case, quoting, where we went to manufacturing companies or we had experience with manufacturing companies. Usually it's an itch you want to scratch. And the question that you have in the room is like, why are we doing this manually? Why is a quote, like give you an example, right? Where you're quoting a generator. I used to work for Caterpillar selling gensets. Why is this a piece of art? Why does it take so many people? And it's not the people, but like, why is this artistic where it's very defined? It's actually a very defined process. It's just not captured in the system. And so anyway, that was sort of my starting point in transformation. That company now is Oracle Revenue. I guess it's called Oracle CX, still around and doing well. And that brings me to a second topic. After that, we made two choices. We're like, hey, you know what? We actually like doing startups. We like building companies. So let's just keep doing more of that. It's a wonderful experience, but the highs are high, the lows are low, as we call it. But once you kind of get into it, it's something that you got to enjoy that journey, which we do. And so we started a company called G2, which is actually slightly a different track from CPQ. It's a software review site, which, by the way, just 2 weeks ago had a unicorn round, which was really exciting for all of us. And when you start something in the basement, of 5 of us, those co-founders, and it grows to something that's very meaningful, that feels really good, fulfilling. But that was also like classic digital transformation without, calling it that. That was essentially us then as vendors and as buyers of tech, just asking ourselves the question, is this the best way to find good technology or to showcase that you have good technology, which basically at that point was analyst reports, which at that point, I think they were trying to mean well, but you just can't cover that many products. You can't use business tech to write about it. So there was some flaws in that. Anyway, so we enjoyed solving that. But then back to the connection, at the same time, we're like, well, we still like to transform B2B processes. And then we met a really genius startup founder called Max Rudman, who started building Steelbrick. And essentially that was CPQ purpose built for on Salesforce native platform. And then we essentially, got together with Max and started scaling it, myself, Godard, Joachim, and the whole crew, and made it what is now Salesforce Revenue Cloud. And that's doing really well at Salesforce. And we integrated it, and we're very proud of that. Which brings me maybe to that common thread, which is transformation, right? In that case, we focus a lot on renewals and subscriptions and billing, which we hadn't prior. So that manual process continued. And then you kind of brought up the question like 3Kit, where does that fit in? And that's basically where we dealt with the topic of visualizing products for a very long time. Frankly, since Big Machines, I won't rehash that, but since the beginning of time, it's like, well, your quoting process is complicated. Well, we solved that. You're invoicing, you're doing all that. Well, it's all being solved now. Well, what is this product that we're talking about? Like, can I see it? And until 3Kit, you actually can't. So if you take a step back in all B2B and frankly, even B2C, the products themselves exist as part numbers in all these systems. Like you actually cannot see, as long as I'm talking tangible products, you actually can't see it. It's a mystery. So we tried to solve it for years, but we needed a very next level, next gen solution to do it. And so that's what 3Kit is.
No, I think that's great. You mentioned a few things I just want to touch on. For those tuning in, obviously we're here kind of talking today about 3Kit and the evolution of it, what it's doing for clients to transform. But obviously Matt's background stems from the Steel Brick days, which obviously is Revenue Cloud today with Salesforce CPQ and billing, where Spalding Ridge is a premium implementation partner. We help advise and offer strategic services as well as technical implementation services for hundreds of clients across the globe. So be remiss not to touch on that. And obviously working with Matt and team as well from a partnership standpoint. Maybe you could touch on, really transforming a business. I think in really scaling a business, it's clearly top of mind for many of our executives. Mostly, probably they can point to, what we've come through in the last 18 months, right?
Yeah.
This pandemic. How has their business changed? How has their clients changed? How have their interactions with their employees changed? Help us understand how 3Kit really works with clients or corporations to really help transform their business, and maybe, a little bit of connecting the dots between the COVID relationship and what you've seen with that change too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the best way to look at COVID is from the lens of the manufacturer and the brand. So I'll kind of look at that. But the trend that's happening is only accelerated, right? I mean, we bet on that trend prior to COVID and ended up being a good thesis in a way. But that's just obviously COVID I don't want to call it happened. It's still obviously going on. It's a tragic event. But what it did do from a brand manufacturer perspective, it sent a couple of memos, as I call it jokingly. So one memo went out. And by the way, let me categorize the way I look at that from that perspective. There's B2C and B2B. Now B2C doesn't mean only luxury good apparel, furniture, because there is actually manufacturers moving into some products B2C, but loosely, just to keep it simple, let's just look at B2C as your classic direct-to-consumer businesses, luxury goods, again, furniture, apparel, all that's, sports, and then B2B as, let's just say, manufacturing, med tech, right? And B2B to me also is B2B, portals as we would know, but also sales tools, right? Like CPQ. Anyway, so one memo went out, which is, hey, everyone, you need to be online. You need to have an online presence. And I see it as jokingly because for most companies prior to COVID, it was an adjunct. Anyway, and by the way, you need an online presence. I want to transact. I want self-service. And by the way, I want to see the whole product catalog now. This is a big deal. I want to see the whole product catalog because I'm expected to transact online. I want to do something. And if you take a step back prior to COVID, B2C was arguably ahead of that curve. But for 99% of the brands, let's just say brands in that case, it was okay to have, hey, I have some products online and come to the store. That memo is, I want all products online and I want to see all of them. When I say seeing, and to be specific as customers, it's very intuitive. It's not a representation of like, I know we have golf bags. It's like, do you have my golf bag? And if I want to look at the zipper for my tea pocket, can I see that or not? That's my golf bag. In B2B, same memo went out, which is, I want to see the products and I want to transact something. I want to self-service. That's kind of the word there. I want self-service because I just experienced it in B2C. I want that now. So if you think of forklifts, right? I don't want to see just an image. Yes, you sell forklifts. That's wonderful. a med tech, wonderful, but like, do you have my device? Arguably in B2B, visual is even more important because you're not shopping to get inspired. You're looking to find your solution.
Yeah.
So that's that one memo, right? The second memo, which went out as well, is, hey, if you have products that are, let's say, higher value, I actually want to have an even deeper experience with the product online because I do want to self-service. And that's, so those two create a lot of pressure on the brands, manufacturers to kind of follow suit. That's what the customers want now. So that's, I would see a big difference.
Yeah, I think, when I explain to, family members, friends, like what do we do? It's sometimes gotten a little bit easier with the pandemic and COVID because everyone is so used to shopping on Amazon or shopping, and it's all about experience now. You mentioned self-service, visualization. People are now saying, especially in the B2B realm, I want the experience I get from Amazon, or I want the experience I get from this personal shopping. I want this for my employees. I want this for our clients. And they're choosing brands and companies that are creating that experience and that easeability when it comes to shopping, purchasing, selecting, quoting, really that transactional process, or even that process that leads up to the transactional process. And so I think that's kind of the emergence of what I've seen thus far too, is this almost consumerology. You take what you do in your own personal environment of buying and purchasing, whether it's a couch for your home, and now you take that to the business world and you say, that's how I want to select a vendor. That's how I want to select a capital equipment or a device. So maybe you can help connect the dots to with what is 3Kit doing that is helping accelerate that sales process? Because clearly that's what companies are wanting. And that ease of how they interact with a company is really usually focused on how do you accelerate that motion so that you can get into high velocity, or you can also sometimes filter out too, right?
Totally. Let's
quickly, as I would say.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing to really think about is, as a leader of a business, like, I agree with you. Like, I'm just being generic now. Like, you have no choice than to figure this out because of everything you just said. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Like, we all sat around for 12 months. I mean, we didn't sit around, but like dealt with the pandemic and experienced buying behavior at such an intense way. We just want that digitally now. And so that's coming to B2B. So, but the one thing, so let's talk about like what that means for the manufacturers is, I think the manufacturers, for the first time are realizing that their tangible product does not exist digitally. That's really important to think about for a second. So for 99% of the companies I talk to, these are some are very large companies, and I'm going to lead the witness, Kyle. Let's have some fun. How do you think they represent their product digitally? How do you think they get, their product online?
I mean,
you have one guess in 1 second. This quick round.
Some sort of marketing engine.
It's photography.
Yeah.
So obviously, I don't want to have some fun here, but it's like, basically think about that. You're multi-billion-dollar corporation. You're now like, hey, we want to be easier to do business with. We want our distribution channel, let's say the buyers, through our portals. We want our buyers through our sales engines to buy more of our products, obviously, because that then the other, we want it easier, we want to differentiate. And so you invest in all the tech, which is wonderful. But at the end of the day, the reason you're doing all this, your product itself is literally a photo shoot. Yeah. So the way to think about that is, so the scale is the problem, right? Prior to scale, are the customers not wanting to connect the dots? You're like, okay, cool, let's do a photo shoot. Let's just pick on MedTech, let's say, right? I have some MedTech devices, some drills that go with it. You know what? Let's just run a photo shoot. What we'll do is we'll just take representative samples, pictures on the website. Hey, we have some of this stuff. Come to us. When you enter the portal, it's all part numbers, super long part numbers. So you can self-service, but the buyers are like, wait a minute, I don't know what this is. Or when you get a quote, it's a really long quote, which I love. I love building quotes, obviously, in my career. So it's a lot of part numbers with pricing. And you're like, well, wait a minute, is that really self-service? why can't you not see the product you're about to buy? Like, I want to see exactly what it is. Why can't I see that? And then, by the way, that's the first purchase. When I'm big in B2B, as you well know, is consumables. It's an ongoing relationship. Why can't I not see the thing already bought from you? And then if I want to just buy it, how can I see, click, buy, make a quick change, buy? I want to buy a part. Why do I need to understand your part number? That's your problem, not mine. Yeah. Your part number that's like this long from an ERP system. If I want to buy a gasket, I want to buy a hydraulic system. Like, why can't I see what I own, click on it, and just move on? That's the thing. It's all very solvable. But the problem is you can't do it with pictures, right? You can't do photography because that's basically like doing an old school catalog, right? Back in the 80s. So that's kind of the what we saw early on. We're like, well, one day someone's going to want to go fast and provide the entire catalog, bring their products to life digitally. And that's kind of where 3Kit comes in. The only way to solve this, you have to automate that generation. You have to automate the visuals with rules. It's very similar to CPQ, but very different. CPQ is obviously quoting engine, rules engine. This is not 3Kit. But what 3Kit does is it uses rules. So you do some setup, rules that generate you visually infinite scale. So basically, you can spend weeks setting up a system and then generates your entire product catalog in 2D and 3D online, per picture perfectly. That's what you need now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I won't bore those tuning in, but it brought me back to the days of early high school. I was working for a large soccer retailer manufacturer, and part of my gig was taking pictures, replacing it, updating it to the website. And it was completely manual. It wasn't a great experience. The coloration, the automation of it, staticness of it. It wasn't kind of, obviously fluid and kind of interaction in digital. So I think that's the interesting thing to me too, is the advancements that 3Kit is allowing companies to make is one thing, but the interactions as us as consumers is now we're stepping up our game. Now how we purchase isn't just based on price, it's based on the buying experience.
Totally.
And I think then that filters into the other aspects of this, where you have Salesforce, you have other enterprise technologies where they're the platform, DocuSign, for instance, from document and contract management side. And so it's the full fundamental how you interact with a client is now run through a technology stack. And that visualization and configuration of those products is very much in the mix. And so I think that's really cool for you, for 3Kit, for our clients, and also the consumers to be too.
That's right. And I think maybe one last thing, I'll just sum it up, because it's classic with transformation, right? We're so deep in like the gears and how it all works. But really from a consumer side, let's talk about the buyer again. All the buyer was, you and I are buyers. They just want to see really quickly, hey, is this the product I bought last time? Oh yeah, that's it. I want to buy more of it. That's it. It's that simple. If there's anything in the way of that, that's why. Why put stuff in the way? Why make them? That's really what they want, right? If I need, this is what I own. You know what? That part broke. What part is it? Why do you have to go through PDFs and part numbers to figure out? Why not show them, click on it, and move on? They just want to buy more, right? Buyers buy. Yep. And so that's, I believe that's the last mile. It's like really, it's about confidence. It's about giving them a quick decision because they want to buy fast. Everything else that's in the way is just waste, right? It's just not needed. So I think you're laying a really good point out. There's a lot of systems behind it. I think obviously you mentioned Salesforce. It's great. DocuSign's wonderful. And that all accelerates that process. But from the buyer perspective is, I want to buy something new fast because I got a problem. I'm down, right? It's that simple, right? I have money to spend, right? Economy's booming, and if I don't get what I want from you, I don't have time. Now, the other people, if they've done a better process, that's where I'll go, right? And by the way, first purchase is one thing. If I can get parts faster, if I can find my way through the system faster, if you translate all your complicated world to me, in our case, we argue visual is the best way to do it, then that's where I'm going to move my relationship over. Because at the end of the day, in B2B, right, it doesn't end with the first purchase. Like, hey, this is easier. I don't need this. I don't need this complicated thing that you're putting me through. And
Yeah.
Honestly, your product is ideally really good, but if it's equal, I'll go the other route, and that's just easy for me. So that's the net, right? Buyers see the world very, very simple. It's that easy.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I appreciate your time today. Obviously, circumstances with this being virtual, I can't wait to be able to do these, this series and session in person in the future. So thanks for bearing with me with any noise in the background. But it was great to be able to speak with you, for our folks tuning in to be able to hear your perspective, your background. Obviously, the great advancements that 3Kit is doing. I'm really looking forward to the continued partnership as well. Maybe you can just lastly leave, if anyone wanted to get in touch with you or learn more about 3Kit, how can they best do that?
No, thanks, Kyle. So first of all, thanks for the partnership. We love working with you guys and your thought leadership. So that's 1, 2. Check out 3kit.com, number 3 spelled out. There's actually also a great shop 3Kit, our consumer side of it. You can check out customers using it live in the wild. So it's fun to get inspired. There's some B2B in there as well. And then lastly, if you want to talk to me, just look me up on LinkedIn, drop me a DM, Matt, Gorniak. And yeah, let's chat.
Perfect. Thank you again. Appreciate it so much.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
Take care.